But one other debate that goes on day after day is, of course, that over vaccine passports. You remember the vaccine passports the government were never going to introduce, and yet now we're told that actually to go to a nightclub or to go to a football game with more than 20,000 fans, you are going to need to prove that you've been double jabbed. Well, what does this all mean for people returning to the workplace? Because there seems to be, I mean, even the British Chambers of Commerce say that there is real confusion over this, but we are told that up to a third of companies are going to insist that their people have had the double jab. And indeed, we had Charlie Mullins sitting in this studio last week from Pimlico Plumbers, and he's insisting that his staff have the double jab. Is that a fair and reasonable expectation for businesses to make of their employees? And I sense this debate, frankly, has barely begun. Now, I'm pleased to say that joining us now is businessman and founder of the 99p stores, Hussein Lalani. Hussein, good evening. Welcome to GB News.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm well. And I have to say, I do have some sympathy with the British Chambers of Commerce, who just say they're confused. They're not quite sure what government guidance is. It would seem this is all being left up to individual companies. Would your assessment be that that's about right?
I do think that's right. And I think the government's messaging throughout the pandemic has been confused, has been mixed messages. You know, we've never had a clear understanding of where we're going. And they always seem to be changing their mind and flip-flopping at the last minute.
Yeah. So what is a business? I mean, in your opinion, is it reasonable? And let's think about the retail sector. You know, the retail sector where you're perhaps behind a counter and you're dealing with members of the public. In a situation like that, is it reasonable that an employer should make sure that an employee has been double vaccinated?
I believe in individual choice. I'm a strong advocate, you know, of everyone making their own choices. I don't believe the government should be coming down and insisting that, you know, businesses should make sure that their staff are vaccinated. You know, we're businesses, we're trying to make a living for ourselves and our employees, and we shouldn't be in the business of policing our staff to making sure they're vaccinated. I encourage vaccination. I've been double jabbed, and I'm a strong believer everyone should get the jab, you know, if they have, which they do have the opportunity. But no one should be forced to take a vaccine. And the other thing you've got to consider is the exceptions. You know, you've always got exceptions. There might be people who won't take a vaccine for cultural reasons, for religious reasons, and even medical reasons. You know, if some people are on immune suppressant drugs, they wouldn't be able to take a vaccine shot anyway. So now you're discriminating against this, you know, against the minority, yes, but do they deserve to be discriminated against?
Well, arguably, I mean, you could be creating two types of citizen, couldn't you? And this could apply, you know, through many areas of our life. But is it reasonable? I mean, if the government are giving a mixed message, which Hussein, clearly they are, and I agree with that, on not just on this, but many other issues too. But is it right that an employer should be able to absolutely insist that all of his or her staff have had the double vaccine? Or do you think it's possible that this could be open to challenges under human rights legislation?
Absolutely. The first thing that came to mind when you asked that question was discrimination. It is, whether you discriminate on gender, on race, on age, you know, that type of discrimination should not be allowed anywhere in any business or in our governments. You know, we're not a state-controlled government like China who does this type of thing and controls their citizens like this. You know, we're in the free world, and we are a democracy, and we have the choice.
Well, it felt like the free world, didn't it? But I have to say, since the pandemic began, it's begun to feel a bit less like the free world, in my view.
Absolutely.
Where government is very, very good at taking powers during an emergency, but appears to be somewhat reluctant to give those powers back. Can I just ask you more broadly? I mean, you know, clearly, for non-essential businesses, you know, the high streets being closed has been a complete and utter disaster. You know, if I want to buy a pair of training shoes, I can't go to the local store in the local town, but I can, of course, go to Amazon and buy them online, and they've been one of the big winners of all of this. But we also know the high street was having its problems before the pandemic. With the opening up, are people going to flock back to the shops, in your opinion? Are they going back to the malls? Are they going back to the high streets? Or has our taste for buying things online and having them delivered to our homes, and all I see on the roads where I live now are vans. I don't see cars, I see delivery vans everywhere. Is this a fundamental cultural change to basically buying pretty much everything online? Or do you think we've got a chance of going back to the high street, being busy and somehow surviving?
Well, one interesting thing, from what I'm seeing in retail is city centres are struggling to get back the business. The idea of shop local, people prefer to shop local now. And, all the big chain stores, right down to smaller stores, are finding the stores in the suburbs, in the smaller towns, they're doing better than big city centre stores. People are avoiding city centres. I think in terms of online shopping, I think the pandemic has just sped up where we were already heading towards, of buying everything online. And, big stores, maybe like John Lewis, who's cut so many jobs and so many sites, their shops will become a bit more like a showroom. So you'd go into the store to look at the product, speak to somebody, and then you'll go home and make the purchase online and have it delivered to you, so you don't have to, carry a big piece of electronic equipment around. So I do see that shift to shopping online. And what I don't think is fair is, the small stores on the high street, or all stores on the high street, they pay business rates. Whereas people like Amazon and all the other online guys, they don't pay business rates like we do, because they've got warehouses. So they get classed in a different category, and they get away compared to what, the average shopkeeper is paying. So that's one inequality that has to be levelled up.
Yes, and perhaps the other one is tax. Now, I know there's been this big global initiative launched by Joe Biden to try and agree a common minimum corporation tax across the world. But I'm not sure it's going to work. And isn't this the other resentment, that, the private company running its own business is paying its corporation tax, and somehow a lot of these big firms pay almost nothing?
Absolutely. And it's not just, big online firms, it's any international business, whether it's Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Starbucks. They've all got head offices in the Virgin Islands or Switzerland, and they have many tricks up their sleeve, pay tax advisors a lot of money to get out of paying tax, and not paying tax where they make the profit. And that is what is not fair. A lot of these companies pay, less tax, than many small businesses, just by the way they structure their business and how they move things around.
Yeah, no, there's still an awful lot to sort out. There really is. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.